Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, and today we're looking to continue the story of High School DxD Fallen Hero. What if Issei was the Blue Beetle? Season 3, Part 1. Now, for those of you who know, this series is sort of a hodgepodge of various aspects of the DC comic universe, as well as the world of High School DxD, with the Blue Beetle issei being the central focal point of the story. But this world, if I have to say, it delves more into the mystical, more mythological side of the DC comic universe. That's why we have a prominent character like Raven being one of the focal points of the story, along with other characters such as Zatanna and Constantine and so on and so forth. So that kind of gives you the vibe of what this series has been so far. With the first 2 seasons now under our belt, we now delve into Season 3, which, while it will follow some of the canon points of Season 3 of High School DxD, it's going to be more of its own thing, especially as we continue on, as the story reaches into its more epic proportions, as the world is about to go into a much larger scale, with the upgrade in characters, plot, and everything else for you all to look forward to. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. For Issei, nowadays dreaming was the only time that he could escape. Escape from all of his day-to-day activities and try to enjoy some semblance of what his life used to be. The times when the only issues he had was worrying about the girl whose chest he was hoping to fondle. Probably not the most productive way of using your time, but they definitely were more simpler times. Now he found himself surrounded by some of the most beautiful girls in the world. And yet, the trials and tribulations that came with them were enough to try a man's soul. Well, besides the time that he lost an arm to save Rias, his many encounters with devil hunters, with evil priests, or rogue fallen angels, and the Chaos Brigade and everything they were up to, everything in between, it all just got to be too much. And then he remembered how it all started. A faithful trip to the museum. A stroll through the Egyptian exhibit. Being chosen by an Egyptian goddess of beetles and being given a special power, a scarab that was now infused into his spine. A power that, frankly, didn't have very much respect for him to begin with. But they begrudgingly had to accept each other. And then there was her, the lone girl in the back of the class, the girl that seemingly had no family, no friends, nothing at all, the girl with a troubling backstory and a daunting future, Rachel Roth, or as you know her, Raven, and everything else that's ensued ever since. However, in spite of all of it, the fact that Issei had managed to come out on the other side was nothing less of a miracle. And now, just 2 months after the convening of the 3 great powers, overseen by the Earth's protector, Mr. John Constantine, and a fight with the now rogue Chaos Brigade, Issei felt like things couldn't get any more weirder. But that maybe now was the time for everything to start dying down. After all, they were looking to form peaceful relations, so there wasn't going to be any need for war or conflict. Well, that's what he thought, until suddenly, from out of nowhere, some guy dressed in gold and blue, about the same age as them, seemingly came out of nowhere, crashing into the rooftop of the Occult Research Club. He was found by the Seatree family and was taken in by the Grimmerys. By the time he awoken, he had a story to tell. The guy called himself Booster Gold. At least that was his hero name or something along those lines. He wasn't from around these parts. No, Mr. Gold came from the future. 500 years into the future. Issei still remembered the day that they met. He saw the fear in his eyes, and the story that came with it only exacerbated that fear. 500 years from now, there's going to be a great war. Everything will be gone. But what exactly happened? Issei would ask. Booster wouldn't look him directly in the face, but he explained. About 300 years from now, humans are going to be made fully aware about all of this. Gods, angels, fallen angels, devils, the whole 9 yards. You could say that was the age of enlightenment, so to speak, where mortals and things otherworldly could coexist. Because of that, science and magic started going hand in hand. The scientific and the mystic, it all became one, and the world evolved greatly. But along with that evolution, other problems came, as I'm sure you're aware. Religions became more of a nightmare than anything else, because now everyone had definitive proof that their gods or goddesses or whatever they believed in all existed. You would think that this would lead to a coalition of peace, and it did for some, but for others, they saw it as open season to start any type of war that they could. It didn't help matters when Rachel's identity became revealed. The idea of a being like Trigon, it only enticed a lot of zealots to want to go after her. One way or another, 200 years later, Trigon was unleashed, and the world was engulfed into a great war. When it was all said and done, most of the royal nobles of the devil families died out. Most of the fallen angels were reduced in number, and heaven was all but vaporized. And at the center of it all lies you two. Us, Issei would say, as Booster Gold would point at both him and Raven. Eventually, Raven did gain control, and she became Trigon, the Dark Empress of the future. Through all the chaos and what remained, she took over. The pantheons, everything, they were so decimated and wiped out that there was hardly anyone that could stand against her. The future is nothing but black. I'm one of the small remnants of humanity. I came back to the past to see if I could make a difference, because honestly, there's nothing left in the future to fight for. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would Raven do such a thing? And why would I join her? I'm sure that the others could have stopped us. They weren't around. During the initial war, Rias died in battle, along with many other members of the Grimray family. You were among the few that survived it. And even then, the few powerful beings that did stand up to you, you killed them. You killed the White Dragon Emperor and the Red Dragon Empress. You stole the principle of division and the principle of domination. Divine dividing in boosted gear. You absorbed them into yourself. You wouldn't allow for Albion or for Drag to reincarnate. Because of that, you stood alone as the strongest, and you became the Black Beetle. You even conspired and went against the very goddess that blessed you with that power. Capri? You mean you usurped her and took her place. You took over as the triumvirate, the Black Beetle, the harbinger of death, and the spokesman for Trigon. There was no point in trying to fight you. You were too powerful. So we came back. Well, I did. We scrounged whatever technology, whatever magic we were capable of using, and I flung myself back into the past as far as I could. I thought I might only get 200 or 300 years back, but instead I went the full 500. And now I'm here. Why exactly are you here? Rias would ask him seriously. I understand your concerns greatly, but if you think that we're going to let you kill Issei or Raven, I'm not here for that. I'm here to stop Trigon from being unleashed. I don't know if I'd even have the power to do something like that, even in this time. I mean, even now, you're all still pretty powerful. I just came to warn you, all of you. Before you do anything else, you need to know. I'm just not sure what my next move is going to be. I'm not sure what it should be. No one else really knew what to tell him either. They were grateful for the warning, but this just complicated matters. So far, Raven's judgment had been to keep her on watch. There were many that felt like killing her would be the best case scenario. The situation with Trigon was rather complicated. Back in the old days, in the old times during the last Great War, God and the original Devil Kings were killed in their battle with Trigon. But in their dying efforts, Trigon was sealed in a dimension called Tartarus. Tartarus was a dark dimension all into itself, and the seal was very powerful, interwoven, and created specifically to not allow the likes of Trigon to escape. But, like all great barriers, there's often a flaw. The best way to describe it is that the barrier was a lot like a fence. Sure, a fence could keep out just about anything if it was strong enough, but there were plenty of gaps, small places where potential escape was possible. As such, Trigon had spent all of his time leaking out small portions of his energy, making its way to the earth. Usually with this small portion of energy, he could possess a human body or two, and even then, possessing a human body, it usually gave him access to around 10% of his power. But 10% was 10% too much. And there was always the issue that the human body, it could only handle but so much power before it finally gave out. So you kept running into that dead end. But he found another way. If he could use a human body, sire a child, then that could change things. And thus, that's how Raven came to be. All he had to do was find a woman who'd be willing to get with him. And in the human world, that's not always hard. With that, Raven was conceived. Her mother was taken in by some kind monks, a tribe of female monks who watched over her. They had a private dimension of their own called Azarath, but unfortunately, Trigon would track down the mother and child even there. And in the impending destruction, Raven had no choice but to escape. But now that left them where they were, an ominous warning from the future of what could be. And even now, they had no way of knowing if they could really fight it. The mystery man from the future had been taken to the Grimmery domain to speak with Sir Zex. Issei and the others hadn't heard anything in the last 2 months, as summer vacation was approaching them. Of course, for Issei, the real worry was that those who were a part of the Alliance would get cold feet thinking that executing Raven would be the best course of action. And knowing Raven and hearing all of the things that had happened, she'd probably accept it. But for Issei, he simply couldn't. It wasn't her fault that things turned out like this. It wasn't any of their faults. That seemed to be the cruel, twisted fate of this world. To always be put into something that you never chose, and to have to deal with the consequences of that. For now, though, Issei would just focus on his training. The others could see that he was taking it a lot more seriously than he ever had before, all in an effort to gain his own balance breaker. For Rias, especially, she was worried about him. The way that he was pushing himself day in and day out. He was putting in way more effort than she'd ever seen. Of course, it was easy to understand why. He could only achieve balance breaker with the assistance of other tools and other outside means. Right now, he didn't stand a chance matching up on par with the others, like the Red Dragon Empress Shiera, or the White Dragon Emperor Vali. But there was also the concern that, what if this led to the worst future? What if it was because Issei was trying so hard, that he was so desperate for power? No, they couldn't think like that. They had to assume that whatever Issei did was for the best interest of everyone. But could they be so sure? I mean, what did this guy from the future really know? If he was even from the future like he claimed. Everything pointed to that he was. But what led to that dark future? What could have led to Issei turning evil? To Raven becoming the new Trigon? Could such a future even be avoided? As summer vacation finally came to them, the students of Kuo Academy would be let out for the summer. Rias would explain to everyone in her household that they were going to be going to the Grimmery domain for the summer. As such, Issei would be packing his bags and getting ready to go. It wasn't night, but he heard a knock on the door as Rias came walking in. Under normal circumstances, she would have loved to tease him, to let him and his hands explore all over her, but she could see that that wasn't really on his mind at the moment. She simply wrapped her arms around his waist and held to him close. As her chest connected to his back, she could feel his heart beating rather quickly. I wonder, do I still make your heart race in such a way? Or is it something else that troubles your soul? Come on, Issei would say. You know better than anyone what the answer is. If my heart's beating right now, then that's a good thing. It means that you're making it happen. If you weren't here, and my heart beats like that, then you'd know why. You're nothing like what everyone thinks of you. I know that to the outside world, you're nothing but a pervert, a fool in every way. But your heart speaks the truth. Your heart cannot lie. You are a kind and caring soul, Issei. And it's one of the many things that I've come to appreciate about you. Well, my heart belongs to you, Rias. No matter what, I'm yours, one and the same. You are my master, and I am your servant. There's nothing I won't do. Anything you ask of me. For Rias, that was more than enough. Loyalty, but perhaps even more. The next day, Issei and the others would travel aboard the Grimmery Dimensional Train as they were making their way to the underworld and to the Grimmery domain of its portion. Of course, among those whom they were traveling with, Zatanna was the most excited. As she was the niece of John Constantine, the mortal representative, it wasn't often that she got to travel to the underworld, and in fact, she hadn't been since she was a lot younger. But getting a chance to return, and to the royal home of the Grimmerys no less, for her, it was truly an honor. And of course, for Issei, he had to fight the urge to oogle at her. Every time he thought about it, he also remembered the very distinct warning that Constantine gave him. In fact, sometimes he felt like he could still hear the words of the ominous uncle looming over him. Listen very carefully to me now, Issei boyo. That girl over there, that fine young lass, that's my niece, my pride and joy. Don't go looking around. This is nothing but a figment of your imagination. Yeah, that's right, boyo. I'm so powerful, I'm watching you, even when I'm not watching you. Now remember what I told you about respect. Respect goes a long way. Respect means that giant spiders don't eat you in your sleep. Respect means that your ass isn't getting handed to you inside of a flying tornado of sharks. Respect means you're not dancing with the Jabberwocky. The Jabber what? The Jabberwocky. The Jabber who? Don't make me repeat myself. You want to go dancing with the Jabberwocky? That's besides the point. Look here. Respect, issei hyodo. Respect. Issei decided that he was just going to keep his eyes to himself for the rest of the trip as the Grimmery family journeyed on into the depths of the underworld. Meanwhile, a man with faint white hair, dressed in an all-black suit, including shirt and tie, made his way into the Chaos Brigade's camp, heading to the main housing of the leaders of the Chaos Brigade, Vali Lucifer, the White Dragon Emperor, accompanied by Kuroka, as well as Sir Arthur Pendragon, and the Fighting Sun Wukong. I hope I'm not interrupting, the mysterious man would say. You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Damien. You know, we tried to recruit you into the Chaos Brigade, but what was that you said to us, Vali would say? I believe he told us to F off, Arthur Pendragon said. Yeah, that's right. So why are you showing up back here? Well, I heard about that little stunt that you pulled off back in Japan, and then I heard even more about how you were moving in to fight with the Northern Earth Gods. Ooh, you're really showing me. Honestly, you kids have nothing better to do with your time besides picking fights. But that's not what I came for. I came because I want to make a deal with you. You want to make a deal? Don't act like you don't want to hear it. You know I can get you what you want. And how do you know what I want? I know that you're looking for a challenge, Vali. You can't help yourself. Always searching for a fight. That's your nature. And if I'm not mistaken, aren't it you that said you were born in the wrong era? I mean, with all due respect, you don't want to know anything about my era or the eras before. You think you do, but you don't. Because if you existed back then, I promise you, the old heads would have chewed you up and spat you out like nothing. But don't take my word for it. If you're so confident, then why don't you see for yourself? What exactly are you getting at? Look, you want strong competition. There are plenty of powerful people out there. You don't have to go after Trigon to get what you want. So that's what this is about. It's about her. Why else would I be here if it wasn't? You don't want me to go after Rachel, Volley would say. It'd be in your best interest not to. Why? You gonna stop me? Volley, you and I both know you don't want these problems. Except, maybe I do. I mean, like you said, I am always looking for a challenge, and you're challenging me. You're standing right here. It's obvious that if I don't give you what you want, you'll come after me. I'll just have to come after you. So why even play this little game of tit for tat? You and I, we can just settle this right now. Because I have a lot more important things to worry about than a child that wants to play games. I know what you're after. I know that you're working with Orphis because you want access to the void. Orphis wants a place where she can rest for all eternity and not be bothered. But in order to get to the void, you have to get out Great Red. Great Red is just as much of a challenge, is he not? Among a lot more others. I can get you Great Red. Is that so? And not just that. Don't act like you don't want to fight with John Constantine. After all, he is Earth's guardian. He has more than enough power to rival the 4 great devil kings, Michael, and even Azazel combined. Don't tell me that doesn't whet your appetite. And I know you have your eyes on the Red Dragon Empress, as well as the Scarab Boy. Hyodo? I'll admit he's got potential, but he's got a long way to go before he's ready to. Then let me speed up that potential. All you have to do is back off. That's all I'm asking. And I'm not even saying that you can't unleash Trigon if you want to. If you can find any other way to do it, you won't hear a peep out of me. You just can't use the girl. She is under my protection. She's currently under the protection of the Grimoires. Not for long. Once I show her the truth, she won't want anything to do with them. And I won't have to keep playing this charade of a game. It's time for the adults to step in. You definitely know how to drive a bargain. I will admit, passing up on Trigon does feel like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. But if you're willing to give up Great Red and add everything else to that list, then you got yourself a deal. Then make it binding. You don't trust me? I know you don't trust me. You're damn right I don't. Very well then. Volley would extend his hand to Damien, as they both would clasp on the other. With this vow, binding and true, I promise on the authority of the White Dragon, I will not go after Rachel Roth. Very well. And on this vow binding, on my name, Damien Dark, I promise you, the Great Red. With that, their vows would be sealed. As Volley was prepared to walk away, Damien would stop him once again. I do have one more favor I need to ask of you. I need to borrow your friend there, pointing at Sir Arthur Pendragon. And why exactly would I lend you my comrade? Because he is the fastest way to the underworld. I mean, yes, I have my own means, but you're a cheapskate, you know that, Damon? Look, you don't make the kind of wealth I make by spending money, but you have to spend money to make money. Oh, please, that's just a saying. No one ever takes it seriously. Besides, that's only for dividends and in the long run and all that stuff. Your friend there with the sword has a way of opening up a portal to another dimension. My intel tells me that the Grimmeries are going to be spending the summer down there. Now, are they? Kuroko would say. Volley, I think you should do it. And why is that? Because this is an opportunity for me as well. There's someone I've been wanting to meet for a while now, and I can finally make it happen. You're talking about your sister. Well, I'll have to wrap things up here. Fine, you can go if you want. Just don't take too long, or we will leave without you. Thank you, Volley, Kuroko would say, as she walked to Damien Dark with a Cheshire cat-like grin. So, when do we leave? As soon as your friend opens the portal. I take it we have family to pick up. Yes, I believe their time with the Grimmeries have done them well, but it's time for family to return home. I couldn't agree more. This concludes High School DxD Fallen Hero. What if Issei was the Blue Beetle? Season 3, Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue with High School DxD Fallen Hero. What if Issei was the Blue Beetle? Season 3, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.